How can two men kill 16 people and almost get away with it, except for one murder? We're about to find out. Here's one of the old mooring points for the horse-drawn barges back then, in the early 1800s. Two Irishmen emigrated from Ireland to here in Scotland, and they came here with the desire to make better money and have a better life for themselves, settling in Scotland. And when they got here, they acquired jobs working as Irish navvies, constructing the canalways in Scotland. It probably started out as quite a promising adventure for them, and they probably had high hopes, but that's not how things went, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. This tunnel that I'm walking through is the last remaining original canal tunnel built here in Scotland. The very last one. And it's not improbable. Burke and Hare probably worked here on this very tunnel during their time in Scotland, building the canal. And the money they made for that, here at least, purchased a lodgings in Edinburgh and was renting the rooms out to lodgers. Hare's cousin used to have an inn and a dwelling here at this site at the Black Bull pub in Polmont. And Burke and Hare, on their way after the work was finished on the Union Canal, stopped off here, probably had free lodgings due to the fact it was a family member, and they rested here for a few nights before making their way to the city of Edinburgh. There was a local grain merchant here and farmer who operated in this area. And he sought to better his career by going into the medical profession. And so he went to the Glasgow Medical College and started to study there. It's a bit dark. However, he did not complete his education to become a doctor. In fact, he was dismissed from the medical college, and the reason he was dismissed from that college is believed to be because he had unsavoury dealings with both Burke and Hare. And it's this pend that is named the Doctor's Pend, after that gentleman. So who knows, when he was having these dealings with Burke and Hare, perhaps he was conducting a little anatomy experiments himself, and Burke and Hare smuggled some bodies through this tunnel to him under the cover of darkness. Burke and Hare committed 16 murders in total between 1827 and 1829. And they were supplying the bodies to Dr. Knox. One of their lodgers had passed away, and he was still due £4 rent at the time of death. So he had been placed in a coffin and he was awaiting burial, and Burke and his good friend Hare decided that rather than let him be buried, they were going to recuperate their £4. So they removed his body from the coffin and they put other things in his coffin to balance out the weight, and they hid the body under the bed until the coffin was removed. They then took that body to the anatomist, Dr. Robert Knox, and they sold it, and I believe they got about, I think it was £7 for it, which was a lot of money back then. Dr. Robert Knox was born in 1791 and he died on 20th of December 1862. He was a Scottish anatomist. He was also a zoologist and an ethologist, as well as a physician. So he had quite a brilliant mind. And he also was a lecturer on anatomy in Edinburgh. Who would then carry out dissections on all of those bodies, or rather victims. Here's the next victim to be. Well guys, I'm here at this graveyard and it's in a town called Larbert, and the reason I'm here at this location is because, despite what you might have heard in the past, Burke and Hare never actually robbed any graves of the recently deceased, and if they did, then it's certainly not known about. But there was a couple of grave robbers at the same time that Burke and Hare were operating with their killings, that came to this cemetery here in Larbert and dug up a recently deceased gentleman, an elderly man. After travelling about 6 miles, they came here to the little town of Pullman, and they probably passed by this old kirk, where they then unloaded the body of the elderly gentleman. So these grave robbers also stayed at this inn, and under the cover of darkness they went back down to retrieve the corpse of the elderly gentleman. So not only did they get their £4 rent, but they profited as well. And it's that very act of greed that set them off on a chain of murders. They killed 16 people in total. 2 of them were males, 2 of them were disabled youths, and the rest were all females. And what they used to do is they would have parties at the lodge, and they would ply the most vulnerable people with alcohol. And it was usually people like homeless people or people without family, the sort of person that would not be missed as such. And then while they were in a drunken stupor, they'd simply just take a pillow or whatever they had at their means and smother the person to death. And they started quite an enterprise for themselves, because they were earning from £8 and sometimes even as high as £14 per body. And that was very desirable amounts of money. But of course that would all change. And once they had unloaded that body, they hid it in a midden pile and covered it with some sort of cloth before they went up to the lodgings. Once they had filled their bellies and had a good drink, they came back down and they retrieved the body from here at the midden site next to the row of cottages. But a local spotted them from a distance, and as they were moving the body back onto their cart, the cloth came off, and he saw that it was a corpse of an elderly gentleman. So he immediately jumped onto his horse without a saddle and rode to the next town of Linlithgow. There he alerted the local authorities, and when the two men eventually caught up to Linlithgow with their horse and cart, they were immediately arrested. Later, they were charged with grave robbing in the city of Edinburgh. Of course, once Burke and Hare were caught and put on trial, Hare turned King's evidence on Burke and was granted immunity from prosecution. And William Burke was tried for murder, but only one count of murder. He was sentenced to death, and he would be hanged shortly after in Edinburgh. Now the reason that he was only convicted of one murder was because there was no evidence for the other 15 murders, because all of the victims had underwent dissection, and their bodies were so thoroughly dissected that there was basically nothing left, and absolutely no way to tell if the person had succumbed to murder. Hare, on the other hand, he was last seen heading towards the Scottish border onto England, and he was never seen or heard from again. That's very nice. And a big Scottish thistle. This stone, can't make that out. I'll review that at home, can't really make it out here. This stone is old as 2 layers. This stone holds 2 layers and an hall. The thing is, Burke, after his execution, his his own body was given to medical science, and they proceeded to dissect him, give him the full anatomical works, and his skeleton has been preserved and is on display at the Anatomy Museum in Edinburgh. And I remember years ago visiting what was the police museum in Edinburgh, and there was a little handbook, and the binding on the handbook was made from the skin of Burke, nonetheless. Quite morbid. After there had been an increase in bodies being snatched from cemeteries, the recently deceased being dug up and sold off for profit, churches like this one here would pay for guards to come and guard the cemeteries at night to make sure that during the hours of darkness no one would sneak in and remove any more bodies. And of course that would all inevitably change when the law changed and allowed the recently deceased to be taken and used for anatomy. And that put an end to this sort of crime. Not the murder, but the body snatching, certainly. If only they had thought soon enough back then about the donor system, and people could donate their own corpse. But I guess they weren't that forward thinking at the time. So that's the story of Burke and Hare. And if you didn't know it already, you know it now. But I think, if there's anything you can take away from the story of Burke and Hare, it's quite simply that never pursue greed. It just gets you hung in the end. Burke and Hare's final victim was an Irish immigrant who was middle-aged. Her name was Margaret Docherty. They lured her into the lodge house, plied her with alcohol, and then suffocated her to death. They hid the body under the bed and continued drinking to the early hours of the morning. But the following morning, presumably while Burke and Hare were asleep, other lodgers had discovered Margaret Docherty's body under the bed and left the lodgings to go and alert the police of what they had found. By the time the police came to the lodgings, the body was gone. Burke and Hare had already taken it straight to Dr. Knox for dissection and collection of their payment. But the funny thing is, that final murder took place on the 31st of October 1828, and it was a Halloween night.